Ugh. She was a little surprised. She had just finished dinner. Why was her stomach growling? As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw two tiny figures, huddled together like a pair of sparrows, blinking their jet-black eyes staring at her. La Yunhu was startled, immediately jumping up. The two children were frightened, simultaneously taking a step back. Sister-in-law is awake? Sister-in-law? Hearing these two words, La Yunhu was stunned, as if he had lost his soul. Wait, the two children's clothes, why do they look so ancient? Sister, you are… The little girl pursed her lips, almost crying out loud. Sister-in-law, I am wrong, don't you recognize me? La Yunho frowned as he looked at that dirty little face. This name, why does it sound so familiar? Suddenly a light flashed in her mind. Could it be… She looked at the two children in disbelief. You are Han Rong, and you are Han Mo? Han Rong immediately stopped crying and smiled. That's right, I am wrong. Han Mo also nodded like pounding garlic. Just now my sister-in-law scared my brother and sister to death. Looking at the two children clinging to her, Luo Yunho's expression gradually changed from surprise to confusion. It was truly too tragic. She had actually transmigrated into a novel where the male lead arbitrarily promoted himself and also became a short-lived female character who only appeared in the first few chapters. The original owner's husband was the two children's older brother. His surname was Han, his name was Ye. His parents died early, and he raised the two younger siblings alone in extreme poverty. When his parents were still alive, they arranged a marriage with the Luo family in the neighboring village. Who would have thought that more than 10 years later, the Luo family would become rich and want to cancel the marriage? But Han Ye was not someone to be bullied, so he brought his younger sister to kneel before the village chief's house to demand justice. The Luo family had no choice but to marry Marquis Luo Yun, who had lost his mother's protection at that time, to Han Ye. However, Marquis Luo Yun was not a woman who resigned herself to fate. She had lived in luxury since she was young, but suddenly had to suffer. How could she bear it? 3 days wanting to jump into the river, 2 days hanging, finally making Han Ye fed up, chasing her away with a letter of divorce. From then on, Han Ye was like a fish in water, helping his younger sister overcome all hardships, passing the imperial examination once, later becoming the youngest prime minister of the Qianlong kingdom, and even marrying the 9th princess. As for Marquis Luo Yun's ending, there was only one sentence in the book, a lifetime of poverty, bored to death. Because of the same name, Marquis Luo Yun pitied this supporting female character. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye she would become that sacrifice? Lowering her head, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her neck. She woke up. It turned out that she had just hanged herself again. How stupid! Now that she knew the plot, she had to cling to Han Ye's thigh to survive. Even if Han Ye met the female lead in the future, she had to earn money to live. Having made up her mind, Marquis Luo Yun gently patted Han Rong's head. Don't worry, sister-in-law is fine. Feeling the warmth from Marquis Luo Yun's hand, Han Rong opened her eyes wide in surprise. Normally, her sister-in-law hated her. Now he took the initiative to pat her head. She was like a puppy, snuggling her head intimately against Marquis Luo Yun. Han Mo was 2 years older than Han Rong and was also a bit more understanding. Afraid that Luo Yunho would get angry again, she quickly reached out to pull Han Rong back. She gently said, Rong, come here quickly. Let sister-in-law rest for a while. Looking at Han Mo's timid and cautious appearance, Luo Yunho couldn't help but secretly hate the original owner in her heart. Even if she didn't agree, she couldn't vent her anger on the two children. How could she be so cruel? No wonder Han Ye scolded her as a single woman. She immediately reached out to stroke Han Mo's head, gently saying, all right, sister-in-law, go cook something for the two of you to eat. It was only when he stepped into the kitchen that Luo Yunhao was stunned. The bowls and plates were empty, and there was not a single grain of food left. Before Han Ye became rich, he was truly extremely poor. In the house, except for 2 simple beds, there was nothing of value left. In the kitchen, there were only 4 broken bowls and a cracked pot. Luo Yunhao was speechless, thinking to herself, compared to what was written in the books, this situation is even more miserable. Han Mo raised his head, his face embarrassed. He hesitantly said, "Sister-in-law, elder brother went to the market to sell firewood. Why don't we wait until he brings the goods back before cooking?" Even a clever person would have a hard time turning around without rice. Luo Yunhao could only nod in agreement. Just as she turned to leave the kitchen, a very familiar voice suddenly rang in her ears. "Welcome. Please take your temperature and wear a mask." Luo Yunhao was stunned. Wasn't this the sound coming from the sensor in front of her supermarket? Did she hear wrongly? While she was still in a daze, the supermarket appeared before her eyes like a 3-dimensional screen. The interior was arranged exactly like it was in modern times, except that the goods had been greatly reduced. The staple foods like rice and beans only had corn flour left. Meat, fish, eggs and milk had only 6 chicken eggs. The oil shelf was empty. There were only a few vegetables, which could be counted on one hand. The candy counter was also empty, but that alone was enough to make Luo Yunhao surprised. She slowly reached out and tried to touch the nearest eggs. Oh my God, this feeling was so real. If she wasn't afraid of scaring the 2 children, she really wanted to throw her head back and laugh out loud 3 times. She actually brought her entire supermarket here. To see if she could take out the items, she quickly put Han Rong down. "Be good, Ronger. Play with Big Brother for a while. Sister-in-law has a stomachache. I have to go to the toilet." Han Rong obediently nodded and jumped down to the ground herself. Luo Yunhao ran to the backyard, and as soon as the idea came, the supermarket appeared again. She shook her hand and grabbed a few eggs. Unexpectedly, she actually took them out. Looking at the eggs in her hand, she finally couldn't hold back anymore, squatting down on the ground and laughing like crazy. Golden finger, ah! With such a strong golden finger, was she still afraid of starving to death? She immediately took out all 6 eggs and conveniently took out a zucchini. This dish of stir-fried eggs was also delicious. At first, she had planned to take out corn flour as well, but unfortunately, each bag weighed a kilo, and when she tried to pull it, it wouldn't budge. So it seemed like she could only open the bag and scoop out a little at a time. She gathered the eggs into her lap and happily returned to her room. As soon as she reached the gate of the courtyard, the door opened. A tall, thin young man walked in. The young man was about 18 or 19 years old, with thin lips and sword-like eyebrows, deep facial features, and clear features. Even though he was wearing patched rags, his figure was still as straight as a pine tree. Probably due to malnutrition, his complexion was somewhat pale, which further accentuated his deep, captivating ink-black eyes. The 2 people's eyes met, and Luo Yunhao opened his mouth wide in surprise. What a handsome young man! Just like the description in the original, without any deviation. Looking at Han Ye returning empty-handed, she immediately understood. The plot's rhythm had begun. This should be Chapter 3. Han Ye sells firewood for 3 coins, but meets a dying beggar, and immediately gives all the money to him. Although the beggar later has a special status, that's a story for later. It was also because of this that Luo Yunhao originally made a big fuss, desperately demanding a divorce from Han Ye. Although Han Ye had not yet divorced her at that time, that quarrel was the beginning of an irreparable rift between the 2. Half a year later, Han Ye finally couldn't bear it anymore and divorced her. But now, Luo Yunhao wasn't the original owner. There was such a big golden thigh in front of her. How could she not hug it tightly? She immediately took a few steps forward, smiling brightly like a flower. "You're back. Are you tired?" Han Ye narrowed her long, narrow eyes, her gaze full of vigilance directed at Luo Yunho. Immediately after, Luo Yunho heard a mechanical voice like a doll greeting customers in front of the supermarket.